Okay, so how did all our problems begin? How do we get ourselves into this situation where we're happy sometimes, but not most of the time or all the time? You know, which is extremely common. It's everybody, just about. But everyone's learnt to put on a, mask when we go out and just try and put on a good front, because we don't want to be bumming people out. They don't want to bum us out. We want to all have a good time together. Quite often we're not feeling as good as we would like to under that. So we just say, "G'day, mate, how you going?" and all this stuff, and all appears great, and we sort of step out a little bit and just make it happen so we can interact. And quite often we're not feeling great. It's just doesn't need to be that way. Just doesn't. Because it's fixable, it's repairable, it's completely repairable. It can be done scientifically. And well, most of you guys know this. We have evidence here, a lot of evidence of those shifts in people, just from simple little things. We have evidence here of people going from darkness to light extremely quickly in some circumstances, especially younger people, a lot easier. And beyond light, the light comes from somewhere too, which we've never been told. None of our teachers know this. Our parents probably don't know it. Our peers don't know it. The TV newscaster doesn't know it. A lot of people in our culture especially just don't know this simple information. In Eastern cultures it's prevalent. So we're the materialistic masters, and they're the happiness masters. They may be living in poverty, but they're living in happiness, a lot of these people. And I'd choose that any day of the week. So we're little kids, and we're just, well, we had Taj, not Taj, your other little fella, little Ash around here today. How old's Ash? 5 or 4? 6. Oh, God. Okay. He's old, but he's still very vibrant and alive, and just his energy's just beautiful, just so into life, and everything's wonderful. Extremely in the moment. He's right in the moment. He's sitting there with us the whole time, completely in the moment, always ready to play at any moment. That's how we were too, right? What happened? Of course, we cried a bit when things weren't going our way, and we had different problems going on, different things happening. But we started, and we were just talking about it earlier, and it's getting younger and younger. When I started school, I was the youngest in my school, and I was 5 when I started, so most of the other kids were 6. Now it's 4, or even 3 in some cases, alphabets, numbers, all these things. So suddenly we go from this just wondrous being that's learned a language from hearing it from other people over a period of time, and we've got all these labels, but they're not really a big deal. But then we have to start refining all these labels. We've got to remember all these numbers now. We have to remember all this alphabet now. We have to remember how it all goes together. We get a big red X if we get it wrong, and a tick if we get it right, and a pat on the back if we get it right, and you're a little bit ignored if you get it wrong. If you're lucky, they'll encourage you. That's just in school, and then depending on the culture we're in, some things are acceptable and some things aren't. In the Eastern cultures, one of our members here has talked about all the kids, as soon as they got to school, had to sit up straight, and they weren't allowed to move for long periods of time in uncomfortable chairs. So we start getting various ways horsewhipped into shape of how we're supposed to be, from these open, vibrant beings, completely just wow. Life is just wow. The moment. There's not even the word the moment. There's not even the idea of the moment. There's not an idea of the past or the future really that's any solidity. Just a little bit. Oh, I want to be a fireman when I get older. Big deal, right? You know, it's not like I want to own the world when I'm older and have a bunch of minions under me doing whatever I want. It's very innocent, isn't it? I want to be a fireman. I want to be this. I want to do that because it seems cool. But as we start getting older and older and older and more information gets piled into our brains, we start moving from that heart space of just love and happiness and joy into a calculator, into a label-making machine. And the better you can make those labels and the better you understand them and the better that you can convey them and the better you can memorize them, the more rewards you get. The higher up the totem pole you become. That's how our society is structured pretty much, wouldn't you say? I know it's a lot more fluid these days. Guys and girls can choose different aspects that are not so educational. When I was younger, it was all in the head. They just started having things for tradespeople and people that weren't academic and weren't interested. They just started doing trade things when I was leaving school. It was a new idea that you could do different things other than not be an academic. Tremendous amount of pressure. And if you weren't an academic, you were kind of failing and a bit of a loser. Which is kind of sad, really, isn't it? Because it doesn't leave much room for everybody to be okay and everybody to have their space in the world of what they are, of what their representation is, what's in their heart, what just makes them want to, you know, wow. You know. So there's all these boxes we were supposed to be in. And if you weren't in those boxes, you were rejected or you were a bit of an outcast, a bit different. And some of these boxes were quite forcibly imposed upon us. It's like cookie cutters. We're the dough and people just come on with these different shapes. And what happens if your shape isn't there? It hurts. You bleed. You don't fit in. So it's just understanding that we're not label-making machines. We're not. It's a fragment of what we are, and it's a painful fragment, to be honest. We can have that with everything else, and we can have that as well, but don't make that the dominant lens we're looking through the world at. It's like walking around with a telescope on your eye, picture, light, fan, and just everything's got a label on it, and the world disappears, the truth disappears. Because as soon as you start labeling going into your mind, you lose your moment, you lose the now. Because now you're processing information. On a mathematical level, you might say, even if it's words, it's this thing running up here. So where your attention is now is up here. When your attention's up here all the time, your heart gets disrespected. When your heart gets disrespected, your happiness is going to drop. It's getting ignored. And then the more we do that, the less honor it gets, the more our directions are off track. And the more just another year I'll do this, just another 2 years, and on you go, and suddenly you're old and very unhappy. Because we lost connection. And I'm not saying by any means, look, we have somebody here that's just nailed ATAR, just absolutely blitzed it. And she will be the first person to say, because of this work, she blitzed it. She's gone from an average student in year 9, middle of the pack, to almost top of the school with this. It's not an isolation of this. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. This expands your ability to do that as well. It's not the other way around. It's not one or the other. That is a result of this. What you are. Because what we are is not this label-making machine punching out labels all the time and mastering them so we can be eloquent in the world and special in the world. Here comes Snowy. Snowy's late for Satsang again. You have to have words of that cat. It's not okay. You can't see again. No. Can you? Yeah. These guys can. Snowy's beautiful. And, oh, did a leaf slip through? Poor tea from Taiwan. And Sophie. So this is what I'm saying. We have to understand. I know at first this can sound like a radical thing because we're so used to living through our mind and our thinking mind. What I'm saying can be a little bit, what? Hang on a minute, how's that work? The reality is, my reality is that I'm probably silent. I get really, well, these guys work with me. I'm pretty good at getting stuff done and how I do it, aren't I? But almost everything I do is done silently. There's no thinking. I know that sounds radical. When I first heard that, I was like, I need to experience that before I believe it. That's my reality now. And that was my teacher was saying the same to me, and I thought, well, I'll put that in the maybe column. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say yes. I'm going to put it in the maybe column and let it rest there for a while. Let's see. Because I was a skeptic. It sounded too radical to me. And somebody could function as well as him, which was extremely high end. He was a very wealthy man. He'd really been successful before he gave all his wealth away. And to be silent and function that well didn't make sense to me at the time. But it's true, you can. It's my experience now. So when you're silent in mind, instead of being a telescope, just seeing this and that and the other and missing everything else, you become like a video camera, where the light just pours in and you see everything at once, instead of a telescope. So you take off the telescopic lens, but you can still use it if you need it. It's still there. But instead of your whole existence being looking through a small slither of reality, you get to see everything at once. And in that everything at once happening, what happens is it overloads your mind, your thinking mind too much, where there's so much information flooding in like a computer. You got a crappy computer, you can't run really good software on it. So if you've got a low-end computer and you're running high-end graphics program, for example, all the computer can do is that and nothing else. So one of the ways I teach is being in the world completely, one of the ways, and trying to live as a video camera with the light pouring in. And what that'll do is slow your mind down, because the mind can only process so much information. It's a great computer, but it's only so powerful. So this is one of the techniques I used when I was driving around and doing different things, is I would try to stay peripheral as much as I can. It's very dangerous driving. It's something I would do walking first, or just sitting and gazing and just trying to practice it. And after many years of it, I was driving a long way. So my first experience was in martial arts. My teacher said to me, look down and don't look straight at your opponent anymore. Years ago, long before I got into this. And suddenly my martial arts just doubled in ability. Instantly. It was just blew my mind. I wasn't allowed to hit him back. And all I was allowed to do was a really big guy, Julian size, and he was just coming at me full bore. And I wasn't allowed to hit him back. And I was able to stop him from touching me, which was just mind-boggling to me at the time. I didn't know what had happened. But it was what I'm talking about now. You're seeing everything at once, and then you'll see the slightest movement will be seen before. Instead of the punch, seeing it here, I would see the movement before it came. I would see what was happening. And you can live like that in that moment, in that level of awareness. And in that level of awareness, this label-making machine has to shut right down. It can be used at any time you need to speak. It comes back in, blah, 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 blah. It'll be very precise, and the person can reply, and you can hold a conversation. But it'll happen organically, without any contraction of the mind. It'll flow. And I was driving to Perth one day, doing that, and I'd go peripheral, but I don't recommend it driving. Please, master it to a certain level, sitting, then walking, because you're banging into something. One day it just clicked. It just went, and that was it, and it stayed. It wasn't an awakening. It was kind of an awakening to the present moment, because that's what that is. When that happens, you kind of, an invisible gate opens, and suddenly everything's a little bit different now. You'll see a bird over there in a tree and a motorbike over there at the same time, instead of being there and you don't see them until they're right in front of you. And it was just groundbreaking. It was wonderful. And my mind had slowed down at that point a little bit. And this is an ancient technique. This isn't new. I didn't make this up. This is what they do in the Buddhist Kung Fu schools. That's why they're doing it. And the great martial arts, the old martial arts, that's a part of it, getting you to that point. And in that state, you become a far better warrior, defender. Your EQ evolves, because your mind's not pulling down your EQ. Yeah, your IQ is not controlling your EQ anymore. You know, your emotional problem. I think that's what it stands for. And it's very powerful. It's very simple. It's just really in the world, nuts and bolts stuff. There's no mantras to remember. There's no Indian names to remember. There's no ancient text. There's no scriptures. There's no tests. It's just real world stuff that you can prove for yourself. There's nothing added here, because the telescope is the addition. This is the removal of the addition that we were given as we got tapped into shape by our parents, our peers. You know, we're hugely tapped into shape by being afraid of what all our friends and peers think. Think about that when we're teenagers and younger, just how fearful we are of being rejected by our peers. That's tapping us into shape. That's cutting off our wings. That's cutting our wings so we can't fly. All these different things, these tribal pressures. I can go on forever, but there's so much pressure on us to be a certain way, and then we end up like this, and we just don't like being like this. It's uncomfortable. It hurts. It sucks. So this is a rebellion against all the trimming and wing clipping we've been having our whole lives. A gentle rebellion, not a screw you, an inner rebellion. I'm not okay with this anymore. You know what? I want to see what my wings look like, fully extended, fully feathered up, fully mobile, fully muscled up. I want that. As I'm supposed to be. That's how I was born. I was born that way. I'm not this trimmed up, homogenized cookie cutter being by an insane society with hardly any happiness in it. The people that taught us weren't happy. Most of the time, I'm sure you had some happy people in your life. I know we all did. But the vast majority of the people that have been shaping us were not carrying happiness. They were not carrying joy. They were not carrying equanimity, calmness of mind. They were carrying what they got taught. And if we look back 100 years, 150 years, and what's been handed down over the time, some of that stuff's pretty toxic. So this is a reversal of that process and keeping the good bits. The good bits means Nishi's going to be a vet. And she's going to continue to study and all the rest of it, and she'll be helping animals. Because that's what's in her heart. That's what makes her heart sing, is helping animals. So she's going to be at the highest end of that, combined with what she's achieved here or what's happened here. And her abilities of sensitivities now of being able to feel the animals, she's going to be on a whole different level of veterinary science. Who knows where she's going to end up with this? In 20 or 30 years, the whole vet thing may change because of what she'll be able to do. Maybe not. There's a high-end chance that there's going to be some adjustments here and there that are going to be very successful. So this is our work internally assists the world externally. People always want to change the world. And the Buddha said it. And every other master has said it over history. If you want to change the world, you change the outside, you fix the inside. You come back inside. When you come back inside and you get your wings back and everything's good again, the force that comes out, because what happens is the energy it takes to do that, to come back to our wholeness, our completeness, the integration of what we actually are. All the energy we're dissipating on all these thoughts of worry, fear, anxiety, judgments, all that takes energy. And with that one practice I just explained, the mind doesn't have the ability to do that anymore. So that energy now is rechanneled, and we have that energy back. It's like we're saving fuel, and that fuel's used for more productive things, which is whatever we want to be or whatever we want to do. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to be unhappy and to suffer, but we've been programmed badly in many cases. So what we do here, as we know, is we examine the things that are bothering us during the day and what's going on, and we look at them and say, well, let's see if it's real or not. Let's see if it's true or not. Let's see what thought, what little people, let's call the series of thoughts we have the software. What software is in the computer that's actually making the computer, hurt a little bit? And we just have a look and see if it's real or not. Quite often we find that it's not real. You pull it apart, and when it's all together, it looks like a solid object. That's just how it is, a belief, a serious thing. When we look into it and open it up and go, oh my God, there's air behind it. There's nothing there. Isn't it? It was an imagination. Somebody taught me this. But they got taught it, and somebody else taught them, and somebody else taught them. And it's just been handed down, and it's actually rubbish. We can throw it away. And in that, I liken it to where we're carrying around backpacks, and a backpack full of rocks, and each of the rocks is a software program that's broken, a damaged piece of software we've inherited, we've been given, and we believed. We have to believe it for it to hurt us. At some point we believed it was true. Whether it was, oh, you're a bad girl or you're a bad boy, or at some point we believe the story that we're given. And when we believe it, we own it. And then that's putting a rock in a backpack, and we're all carrying around the backpack full of rocks, our worries, our fears, our anxieties, all based on these software programs interacting that we were given. They're not ours. They're nothing to do with the bird. They're imagined through this label-making machine. It's strung them all together and tied them in knots, and we carry the knots around. We put the rocks in our backpack. Here we've taken the rocks back out of the backpack. Then we throw the backpack away, and we find a different state of being, a natural state of being. In India, they call this, I've forgotten the word, good. It's the natural state. It's the state of our natural state, our natural being, before we got programmed into being something to fit into everybody else's idea. The education system in the West came from a lot of it. If you do study history on this, you're not going to get this from school. It came from the factory work. They wanted factory workers that were educated enough to do the work that the big bosses wanted to do. They helped put the education system together in England 100 and something years ago. This is still reverberating through what we're doing here. We're trained to be biological robots working for bigger people. Our high school trained us to be workers. Why would they want to program us to be people going, why? Why? The Vietnam War, they stopped getting people to ask why when everyone in the colleges around America shut down the Vietnam War. That was the end of the question why in school. Because these people can rise up and fix problems that we're causing at the top. We don't want that. So we've been trained to be drones. And I wasn't okay with that. I was not okay with that. And when I found out, I had a lot of anger about it, and I went into a conspiracy theory role as I was uncovering everything. I was devastated, and then that passed. I thought, well, I'm not solving anything here. I need to find out what's after this. I need to find out after this. I can't solve any of this, so I need to just go and sort my crap out. So I did that because I realized understanding all this was just hurting me more. How the system works and how ugly it is. Understanding that wasn't helping me; it was depressing me. So I went inside and went and sorted this out, and I started taking the software apart, and eventually I just found a space with my teacher. And oh my God, wow, that's what he's been talking about this whole time. Different people are already experiencing this here. They know what I'm talking about. It's when you disappear, because all these rocks in the backpack, these software programs interacting, become a blob. Because they're so tightly wound and we can't see through them, and then we write our name on it in Texter, Rose, Jamie, well, we write our name on this groups of software, and that's our personality. But it's all changeable. If anything's changeable, it's not actually real. because it's interchangeable. So how can you be there if it's interchangeable and you can take that away and change this and change that and change that and your personality changes all the time? How can that intrinsically be real? Now it's a movable object. It's fog moving. If you sped it up 1,000 times, put it 1,000 times fast forward, it's all malleable. There's nothing holding it together except our imagination of what we want in that moment, or what we think we want. So here we pull it apart and we see the light behind it, and then eventually we see there is no center to it all. There is no center to your identity. And at first that can be uncomfortable to hear, but actually it's a relief. If you look at after that's passed, you look at it deeper, you go, oh my God, that's great. It's really good news. And everything's happening as it happens. Everything's happening in the now. Nothing is ever in the future or past. It is not possible for you to guess your future 100% correctly, therefore it's imagination. Have you ever guessed your future 100% correctly with any complication in it whatsoever? Other than I'm 24 now, in a year I'll be 25. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about like, you know, and it's the same going the other way. It's been proven with detectives. They've done tests on it. They'll get 15 people in a room. They'll do a fake stabbing, not telling anyone it's a fake stabbing and or whatever. And then they'll go get 15 reports from everybody in the room. And everybody, some saw a gun, some saw a knife. Everybody in the room had a different story of what happened from what they imagined they saw. And they never got one story out of 15 the same, but everyone was 100% sure they saw what was going on right. That was what their memory was telling them of something that just happened, let alone a year, 2, 5, 10, 20 years ago. So that's imagination too, because it's going to be corrupted. Because all these software programs is like put lenses over our face. And we're looking through lenses all the time as they run. And we think that's our reality. What I'm saying to you is a lot of this stuff's lenses, isn't it? You know, and some of these are very positive lenses. And these positive lenses help us feel good, but they're still lenses. Reality, this is reality, just seeing things as they are. Seeing things as they are, unfiltered. That's all this is. And it's called the natural state. In India, it can be called nirvana, you know, samadhi. There's different words for it. Depends what culture and what language. But in the East, this is known. This is the end goal of their existence, to find out their core root of their existence. This is their goal for millions of people on the planet, but not here. The goal here is to get rich / famous / powerful, whatever it may be, super popular, whatever famous. And at that point, everything's going to be right. I'm going to be happy. I've made it. But go and research it. Nobody is. Over and over, and millions have done it. Millions have made it to with a goal they wanted and it wasn't there. I think it's called a midlife crisis too. That's a part of that too. Jim Carrey, I like to quote what he said. He says, I wish everybody had everything they ever dreamt of so they could find out as quick as possible that's not it. And Jim Carrey's found what I'm talking about. He acted in a role, I've told this before, and he got so immersed in the role for so long with this character 24/7, he wouldn't even answer to Jim. And when he left the role, he didn't know who Jim Carrey was anymore. He realized Jim Carrey was an actor. And so he's found this space too of reality, of just being life itself. Under your identity, your believed identity is your experience that you are actually life itself. Just seeing life itself as the awareness of life itself. Which sounds radical, I get it. But it's just how it is. Someone's got to tell you the truth sooner or later. Because none of it, surely not a lot of the rest of the stuff's making sense, right? This is the truth. The life itself. And even beyond that, we're the awareness of life itself. And beyond that, we go into a whole different game, beyond consciousness. Immortal. Life itself doesn't die. It's not born and died. It's what we are. But as we've discovered recently, a lot of people, even as they start finding us, we're so addicted to staying small and contracted. It's like we're 1,000 meter beings that have jammed themselves down into a less than 2 meter body. That's what it's like. This is just a massive contraction, but we're so used to it that even letting that go and allowing ourselves to be bigger is just so hard, because we're just so programmed not to be big. So one way I describe it is like, it's all one particle. Everything's just one thing, not two. And that one thing is a fog, and it's a coloured fog. So when I look across at the room, I am the coloured fog looking at the coloured fog. And I look at you, I'm the coloured fog looking at the coloured fog. That's my experience. I don't see separate people, although I see a part of the fog named Rose and a part of the fog named Jamie, but it's still the one fog. It's a coloured fog. It's the same particle, and our mind is actually imprinting the colour on it, believe it or not. I know I don't want to go too deep on this. But your mind is great. I've seen past the colour. And then after the colour, it goes black and white, like what's that colour you see that's almost like the old photos, those sepia, but then the actual energy shapes start. You see the energy shapes and the energy goes flat line. There's actually nothing here, to be honest. Without your mind, there's nothing here. This is incredible. This computer is co-creating with everybody else right now. We're all co-creating. This fog's co-creating itself. And it's incredible to see. And it's incredible to be in the world understanding that. The world is just incredible. This is just incredible. For most people, the world's survivable. For me, it's incredible. It's just a miracle. It's just a moment-to-moment wow. Really, this is just, even though I'm cleaning and doing whatever it is, it's just this background wow all the time. Like I said the other day, whether I used to surf a lot, I don't care whether I'm surfing or cleaning, it makes no difference to me. It's still wow. You know? Because when you become it itself, the separation disappears, everything's just different. It's real. It's actually reality. How cool is it that that's reality? When we strip away the false, reality's like that. Tell you what, it's pretty cool, and it's indescribable, is it not? Anyone that's found it, to try and describe it is just the hardest thing, is it not? You know, you're just finding bits of it at the moment, honestly, just starting. It just keeps going. It's infinitely expanding. I've heard it said by Adyashanti, who's a great Western teacher, California guy. And he said it's a constant thinning out, constantly thinning out, and it just gets more and more beautiful. And just the word would be nectar, sweet nectar. It just feels like a sweet nectar all the time. Everything. It's a nectar. It's just so beautiful. That's what we're doing here. Now, I've gone over that because we've got a couple of new people here that don't really know what I do. I'm just this strange guy babbling on about stuff. So I'm just trying to get a bunch of stuff out. They've heard Rose, I guess, is having some shifts happening and they're interested. So I'm just going back a few steps for everybody and it's good for us all to go back and remind ourselves that this is a natural state, eh? I'm not here to offer anything. I'm here to remove the shit that's in your way. But you have to help me. Without your willingness, I can't do much. And I'm not prepared to do much because I'm messing with free will and I'm not going to do that. It's up to you, as I've always said, you guys. It's up to you. It's willingness. Willingness is essential. But that, and a willingness builds with time. Willingness comes to the forefront. Willingness becomes at the power central spot it needs to be when you've had enough of suffering. When you just go, that's it, I've had enough of this. I've had enough of being unhappy. I've had enough of suffering. That's when your willingness will arise, not before. So sometimes we might need to go play in the world some more. See you in a year or two, maybe 3, maybe 5. But what is for sure, the suffering will continue unless these issues are resolved. That is guaranteed. because that software is going to keep recreating them because we're so powerful. And if the programming's wrong, you've got a really bad software program that crashes all the time. Just keep running it isn't going to fix it. On a computer, is it? Actually, something has to happen. You have to go in and remove the virus. You have to remove the thing that's causing the crashing. It's the same. It really is. It's the digital reality and this reality, it's the same fundamentals. And that's actually been proven, by the way. That's been proven. High-level science has proven this. Everything, this here is super, 10 to the power of, 20 or something stupid, or 30, which is just an immense number. We come back to little squares again, just like the digital world. Max Planckian tube, they've been working on it since. It's already done. They're able to measure it. So what I'm saying is actually good science now just recently nailed it completely. And it was nailed by an awake lady who woke up as a child and became a cosmologist, wasn't it? A high-end cosmologist who's working with Stephen Hawking and just all these high-end people. And it's been her life mission to open the science gate, because science is always going, no. She's broken the gate open. She's proven it. It's out there. Which is great news for all the people that are held back by science. I had many friends when I was on this path that were held back by science. And they were waiting for science to say it's okay. But my experiences were shifting. I was getting happier and better by what the Buddha was teaching and different masters were teaching. This is working. Why do I have to wait for science? Why do I have to wait for these unhappy people to tell me it's okay to be happy? When it's working, why do I have to wait? Who gave them this power? When did that happen? But that's gone too now. They cannot be held back by that if they want to find information. But the vast majority of scientists will choose not to find that information because people are afraid of this. So I don't know why. It's the best thing ever. That's what I see time and time again. So, discussion over from my space. Who's got something to ask me?
Sorry, what did science prove?
Okay, so what did science prove? Yeah, good question, because I'm assuming you guys know that everything's the one. It's good. The lady calls it unity consciousness, not duality. So duality is like relativity, right? Like time and space. There's a distance between us based on time and space. So in unity consciousness, what that time and space is reliant on my mind and your mind. No mind, no time, no space. Unity consciousness. Does that make sense? Excuse me. Okay. No, it's okay. No, because if this is brand new to you, it's going to be, you're going to need to understand what I'm saying, otherwise it's not going to make sense, right? It's fair. So, what this is called, what some people call this is non-duality. Okay, so currently we've got tall, short, day, night, right? Happy, sad, ugly, beautiful, right? They're all relative to one another. You move to Africa and their idea of a female beauty is completely different to ours. Like, they like women to be really heavy set because it shows that the man's well. They're feeding their wife well in some places, right? So it's all relative. So what it's saying is duality is relative. It's relative to one thing in relation to another from a perspective. Yeah? An ant's perspective of this world, there might be an ant in this room now, is going to be extremely different to what ours is with our education and the computer we've got on top of our shoulders. Right? So everything's very relative. So non-duality, basically what it's saying is, like I said, it's all one fog. Imagine it's all one fog. This is all a fog and it's a coloured fog moving. Now, if you could truly see that, what you would understand is that you're not separate from everything else. Does that make sense? if you could truly see that, and that's what this is about, because I can only tell you about it until you see it. Just like I've just brought back a beautiful fruit from Africa, and you've never heard of it before, and I'm going to try and describe to you how it tastes with a bunch of labels. You can't. It's the same, see? You get it? So you can only taste the fruit yourself, and then you go, oh, I got it. And then you'd try and give me words, and we'd work out the best way to try to describe it to the next person, combining our intellects together. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But they still wouldn't get it until they tasted it. So, makes sense? So, non-dual is just the understanding that there's no core to you. Like, there's one teacher that I really like what he says. It's called life without a center, is how he sort of labels it. He's a Western guy. And it's like we don't actually have a center to us. Like you might think, so let's play with this for a second. Where, like, so Izzy's your nickname. Yeah. Where's Izzy exactly? Where are you exactly? Which, yeah, okay. Are you in your leg? You're in your brain. Okay. Okay. Okay, so up here, yeah, this is what most people think, especially in our culture, yeah. But you feel like your body's yours too, eh? Yeah. Okay. But that's how most people think. So what I actually do is try and speak to that, right? But it's not really my experience. So I spend I try to meet that. That's how I speak. Speak to people's minds and try to unpeel their minds so they can see that the mind is just an insect on the back of an elephant. I heard another good teacher explain it well. The mind is a mouse with a loud hailer. He's the press secretary on the back of an elephant. And you're the elephant. Not the thing making all the noise. Rah, 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 rah. You know, like, I'm doing this now, like, you know. It's a little bit tricky at this stage because you've never heard of this before. So the unity consciousness is not separate. There's not two. So your right hand and your left hand are one. This is a very paradoxical thing also, because what we're saying to you here is this is a multidimensional experience. Okay? The lowest level of the experience of this thing that we are is duality, a separate you. The next step back is, oh my God, I'm connected to everything. And it's an experience, it's a feeling, like the taste of sugar or the taste of this fruit we're talking about. It's just something you get, oh, I know that now. I know that taste now. Yeah? But it's nothing describable. So I'm using the describable to try and pull people to this. Okay? And Rose is experiencing this now. She's starting to experience, and a few other people here are. And people have glimpses of it or not. You've probably had glimpses of this in your childhood that you've forgotten also, because it just didn't make sense. Well, after I woke up to the wider reality, I started remembering all these incidences in my childhood that were it. I had no idea what it was, and oh, that's what that was. Later, you look back and go, oh, this happened to me as a kid. Oh, that's what that was. Just these little moments. And this is very common because it's our natural state. Sometimes the duality parts and we see under it. You ever watched The Matrix, the movie? Yeah, kind of like that. So the Neo sees through the digital code, behind the code. Yeah, okay. Is that a little bit clearer? So I'll just layer it out. So duality is the densest realm. This is where all the suffering is. And duality is the suffering. Okay, this is where I feel really bad because he did this to me. And I feel betrayed, hurt. She doesn't like me, and I really want to like her, and that really hurts my feelings. It's the my, I. Now, if you can imagine that you don't actually relate to yourself separately to people anymore, and somebody does something, it's almost, it doesn't quite like this, but there's nothing there because you know the separation's not there anymore, and it's just stuff happening. It's just the fog swirling to some degree. So you don't have all this I and my going on anymore. My pain, my suffering, you know, that starts to drop away. And what we do here is we pull all these things apart and we see the I as illusionary. Although it's also here too. It's very paradoxical. We still am interacting. We ate food together. I'm communicating with you now. And this is unsolvable by the mind. Well, all I can say is it's just a layered existence, and then it goes way back beyond all of this, including all the color, all the light, everything beyond the energy, everything you can conceive, everything you can perceive and conceive, imagine, emote, any of that is all in a thing I'll call consciousness, or Brahma if you're in India. And that's just the duality. That's consciousness is duality. We're before that as well. You can go back and be the supreme witness. I've heard it called in India. It's a word used by a few teachers, and it's you become the supreme witness, where consciousness is just a dust on the horizon. It's just a speck. Yeah, but we take it very, very seriously because we believe we're we and I. But consciousness is also a part of the mind. And it goes back beyond the supreme witness also. But let's not go there. Let's keep it simple. It's unnecessary. Find the I am or beingness first. We call it beingness. So how I would describe the human race now is humans doing, not humans being. Humans doing means you're leaning forward into the future and worrying about the past all the time, and you've lost your moment. You're not being anymore. And human beings can do things too, but it's from a different space. It's not this big push forward into the world. It's done moment to moment. It's very fluid and very nice. Like I was talking about before with the martial arts. It's just everything shifts. You cooked a nice meal tonight. You pulled it off. You know, you don't lose your skill sets. Is it? Just don't have to think about it. It just happens. It's all happening. This is what you have to understand too. I'm going to throw it at another angle for these guys, and this is good for you guys too, because understand this. I'm speaking to you now. You're seeing me and hearing me. It's coming into your brain. It's going through natural, let's call it wiring. But then it's hitting your software and hitting your software, so you're going to hear it slightly differently depending on what software you're running. Surely you guys miscommunicate sometimes and hear each other wrong, or you guys got it perfect. Okay, no, okay, so that happens. So that proves it, right? We're going to hear things slightly differently, understand things slightly differently. Yeah. Then it's cognized, and then you understand it, and you're going to relate it to something you already know. You're going to have a reference point of your past. Oh yeah, that kind of connects there, and then you'll come back. And that's happening super fast, right? But it's all happening slightly in the past. By the time you come back out with any reply or cognizing or tying it into what you understand already, which is what I'm trying to do, hit reference points that you already understand from your history, you know, general history. By the time that's all done, you're in the past. So every time we're cognizing and doing all this stuff, we've actually left the moment already. Okay? So understanding that means everything that you're cognizing and thinking you're doing is just a nanosecond or a few nanoseconds behind actually what's going on, which is reality. But we think, so it's almost like somebody getting in the trailer on a car with a steering wheel in their hand thinking they're driving the car. It's just behind the beat. And that we put our first name on. And I'm saying that's a phantom, that's not real. That's all I'm saying. And just the fact that it's behind the beat by just a nanosecond means, how can it be? It just thinks it's running the show. So it's all just happening. Life's just happening, and we are that. But that's radical to hear for the first time. But just think about the logic of that for a moment. But that's hard. That's just what? I get it. So just hang with that. Just think it takes time for this to happen. Even though you can't register the time because it's happening so quickly, it's still time. There's a gap. Here's reality. Here's what you think you're doing. You think you're in control at this point, and here's the moment. Here's the past. Yeah. So I'm saying, let's come here. Let's come in. And here, wow. This is where the suffering is. Imagining we're running the show. This is where all our pain is. Yeah. No, but no one's told you this before. So this is all like, what? But you can get that simple thing. It's cool, huh? Now you can relax a bit, by the way, because you're not in control. So enjoy. Takes a lot of pressure off, hey? Now you just got your head around that this thing's all just happening. You're not going to be able to probably get your head around it, so you have to drop that too. Just allow. So my key word is let go, surrender. Don't try and understand it. You're just going to hurt you. You're going to get a headache. It's all about let go, relax, and just fall into it, drop into it. There's certain intellectual understandings we can have to help this process, and that's what we do here. Yeah. Good. These guys are getting it. That's great. All right. Who's got a question? Now you can sort of, now you can hear some stuff that's going on. It might help see how we're working and get what we're doing
here. The unchecked commentator, Rohan.
The unchecked commentator. Oh, I've got a new word for madness, have we?
Yeah, for the wild lunacy there.
Okay.
Just been exploring that a bit more, Rohan, after what you mentioned, I think, a couple of satsangs ago.
Yeah.
And how
the
incredible amount of chatter that comes up.
Yep.
Talking like that perceived crazy person in the street.
Oh, yeah. The crazy person in the street is talking to himself. And the people are judging him who, as soon as they finish judging him, start talking to themselves in their own minds, but just don't speak it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly that.
The only difference is he vocalizes it, but he's mad and the other person isn't. How selfish is that? How crazy is that? Yeah, carry on. I just had to explain that because they guys didn't know the reference.
Yeah. Yeah, I just have been sitting with that, Rohan, since you mentioned it and shared it, because there was no real cognizing of the level of that has been going on within me, and it's actually remarkable how much of it is going on.
Yeah, when
and it's actually
mad. Yeah,
it's really noisy. It's a rock band. I didn't realise how loud the rock band was. I mean, there was some awareness there from Satsang and exploring what we are. But yeah, I'm wondering what is the root of that incessant commentator? You. Madness. Well, ultimately, it's all in consciousness, isn't it? But we all think we've got this tiny mind running the show. What if this was just a receiver for information floating around that's just structured a certain way to catch certain bits, and it's not actually our mind? What if? And all our programming allows us to catch, like I haven't got an analogy for it. Yeah, okay. So like, if you've got a really fine fly net, you can catch really small flies. But if you've got a really big fly net, you can't catch all the flies. And so somebody that starts waking up and their mind starts expanding, a lot of it, they don't hear the words anymore, but they might be still flying around. They're just not getting received anymore, but nothing to hit. We assume that it's our mind, but before the thought, there's nothing, silence. Then the thought comes, and then it stops again. But most people's thoughts are just going non-stop, so they don't even hear a gap. But when you start to see the gaps, it came from somewhere, then there was a thought, and then it's gone again. Where did it come from? Where did it go? All you have to do is find that. You don't have to worry about, if you've been, this is a good Buddha quote, if you've been shot with an arrow and it's sticking out of your chest, do you start running around wondering who shot it, or do you start working on the problem at hand? Right? Let's just sort the arrow out. Let's not worry about the rest.
Roger that.
That's of the mind again, to worry about it or think about it. We need to know. All we need to know is it comes from nowhere and it goes to nowhere. But let's just get rid of the arrow. Let's just remove it. The trouble is everyone's so used to using their mind, they think they are their mind now. And that's what I'm saying is that we're not. And that's a big deal to hear for the first time. Understand that. It's okay if it's a bit. But you're not. You're much more special than that. Much more wonderful. Much more ordinary. And then that ordinary is incredible. The mind's a torturing machine for most people. The mind is a terrible master. Because if the mind's running you and you're just following your thoughts everywhere, and then another thought, and another thought, and we're just like that all the time, that's just torture. But if you're the master of the mind, which is what this is, it's the best slave ever. Now it's completely in your control. And you choose precisely what you do with it and how your life's going to be and how you're going to interact. Everything's in your control. It's taking back your power. It's coming back into your power. The Toltecs would call it you're coming back into your power. You're unclipping your wings. Your feathers are growing back out. Yeah, don't worry about all the dynamics of that sort of stuff. Just sort the arrow out. That's what's hurting you. Just know they're not helping you. They're draining all your energy. They're draining all your resources. It takes a lot of energy. I read a long time ago, and somebody could correct me, but somebody using their brain at full power is like jogging, the energy consumption. So think about that. If your mind's constantly churning with thoughts and you're following them everywhere, you're burning all your resources that could be used for being who you are. Quiet, silent, it's magnificent. It's beauty. Beauty is a great word for it. That's what it feels like. There's a lot more masculine words for it out there too, but that's a good one. Okay. So just sort the arrow out, dude. That's it. There's your short answer. Okay, who's next? Yes, hello. Fire away.
Rohan, I've been looking at my fears, and I came to the conclusion this week that it's just all fears is really about the thought of having a future. And so when I came to that conclusion, every time I tried to go and look deeper at my fears, like work on them, they just kind of dissolve and I can't get any further. What should I do?
So you're seeing the fears, they're dissolving, and then what happens?
Well, they're not there. They're not there, but because I know that it's just a thought about the future.
Yeah, but okay, so you've mentally gone, oh, that's nothing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this is all happening in the mind. The thing is, those fears are within your pain body, your energy body. And this is what happens to a lot of people that get into this game. It's a bit of a trap. You see that in the biter a lot, where, there's nothing, I'm nobody, it's nothing to do with me, I'm not that. And they do that and they separate themselves off and it's over here now, but it's still residing in their pain body. So they might have an opening, an expression, or the mind will part and the radio stations will all shut down for a little while and look, oh my God, so quiet, beautiful. Everything's so vast, I'm so vast, and have these experiences. But the next time they walk down the street and that pain gets triggered again, that all shuts down. Or it could be a year later when they're 6 months into their teaching career and it's gone again. So what I teach is a full body heart awakening, the full deal, the whole lot, not just little bits. And the mind's the smallest bit of them all.
It's the easiest one. So when you have these fears, you need to go to find out where they are in you. You said you're energy sensitive these days, a bit empathic. You need to start doing that on yourself and finding out where it is with you, and acknowledging and accepting that pain and nurturing it and just going, okay, I feel this way. I need to go in there. Because those fears have a root within you. They're not just floating around. And that's a hard thing to do. It's as hard as you make it. For me, it's easy. For a lot of people here now that have practiced this, it's easy. It's not. It's like, buttering your bread. It's not even considered. It just happens. But at the start, it can be difficult. It's uncomfortable. So yeah, if you've just had the thought and realised it's all the future and then it's just gone, and you're wondering what to do next, and a great expansion hasn't occurred where you realise you're everything, then there's work to be done, And I just go within, Sylvia. Just go and try and find that pain and be with it. Just see if you can find a root within you. You've got to understand the vastness of our pain body too. It's pretty vast. The easiest thing to do is think we're getting on top of it by having some little mental shifts. It's really tricky. And I just encourage you to see, and come back to me, please. Let me know if you found anything. Because it would be a miracle if it wasn't there. Just. And if it's a miracle, I want to hear about it too. I'm not saying one thing or the other. I'm just saying, please look. Yes, hello.
At last Satsang, Anushka said, in her dream, she had a dream she shot herself. And I was quite emotional and quite touched by that. I almost lost Anushka when she was 2. She had a gastro. It was very serious. I blame myself for that. Years later, when my relationship went sour with her dad, he blamed me for all that. And once again, I blame myself for that. Sometime later, I realized there's nothing much I can do about it. And the fear of a death for loved ones is quite attached to me. I realize this may be coming from to do with cultural, biological programming. And I need to work on this attachment, drop this attachment.
To your daughter?
Yes.
Yeah.
To drop the fear of death for loved ones.
Yeah, you need to drop the fear of death, but you don't need to drop your care. But because death's a reality for everybody and everything, isn't it?
Yes.
Excuse me. And it's one of our biggest fears. That and madness are our 2 biggest fears. And they're the ones that have to be stepped through, ultimately. So we do all sorts of contorting and devastating things to ourselves by the hidden fear of death that's under it all. When we're all going to die anyway, so best to sort it out, work out what's going on there. Make that okay. I don't mind if I die now. It's fine. I've already been in that situation. It was okay. Okay, that's it. I'll die then. All good. Yeah, so you have to go there. And Nishi's dream was actually a very good dream. I mean, it wasn't her physically killing herself. It was her identity, the end of her identity. It was a very powerful dream. And her having to stand alone in the world as a woman, as a powerful being with unclipped wings, not attached to other people for her to tell her which way to fly and how to fly, and what colour her feathers are supposed to be. Enough dyeing of the feathers and painting of the feathers and the trimming of them and all that stuff. That's what that was about. That was a good dream. Sounds terrible. It was actually a very powerful dream.
It's very, very next level. Hey, Nishi. She doesn't talk much. So yeah, that's right. What you're saying, everything you said was right, as far as I can tell. Yes, Snowy agrees. Snowy's in. Got the thumbs up. Got the claw up. The fear of death's a trap. It's such a trap. It's what drives people forward into the world, trying to conquer the world and conquer everybody and be popular. It starts Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, people going to war everywhere. It's all rooted in the fear of death. Causes so much destruction to the environment, to other people, children without families. It's just a murderous thing. We need to address it. And it's one of the hard things to do. But you don't do it early on. This is something you build up to. As you expand out, it becomes less and less valuable, because once you start experiencing yourself as consciousness, the observer of consciousness, and you're not this dualistic being fighting for survival, well, it's dropping away anyway. There's just residue in there. It's just residue from eons of evolution, the genealogy. It's left in the energy pain body. So just putting your attention on that so it can dissolve. That's all.
Would then I need to crave their attention if I was so young? And
even when you're young. Okay.
when you're young,
Yeah, because your biology is needy. Our biology is needy. It needs protection, safety, security. The root under all this mess that we've created and is around us and just happening around us, the root of it all is love. It's all rests in that. So as that dissolves, that's what we drop into. It's the divine, it's the feminine aspect. It's the yin. And the root of suffering is in here. Right. And it's here especially. And if you think you're that, you got a real problem on your hands. Because we need to, because if you're believing all thoughts, like when you're young and fresh, and they're just saplings and everything, it's all fine. But when I look around, a lot of the older people aren't very happy. But I don't think any of them, when they were teenagers and 20, thought they were going to be unhappy when they're older. But slowly but surely, we accumulate mud and beliefs and misunderstandings. And any little tiny misunderstanding here, as it goes out into life into hundreds of different avenues, it just creates a great big tree. So it's important to get the software right. Even if you just get the software right, just so you can have manageable happiness, it's important to make sure it's right. Just to have manageable happiness, not even more awakening. Because these seeds that we came in with, they do grow. It's just how it is. It's like a garden we have to take care of. And bearing in mind also, a lot of the thoughts are just floating around, and as we learn software, we start connecting to negative thoughts and negative sort of worlds of understanding, and we start tapping into them. We start becoming victims and things, and blaming people. And once we start heading into these victim states and everything, we're opening up portals to negativity that can just come into us. You understand? Because we now are supporting it within us. It's like a node. We create a node, boom, they've got that negativity, group of negativity thoughts are now a part of us. So we hook into all this crap. And it's important to get these things right. And victimness is the scourge of the West. It's just such an epidemic that's just accepted. Victimness is just bullshit. It's fraud. It's not real. There is no victim ever. 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 No matter what happens. Did that answer that? Did that over answer that well enough?
Over answered.
Thank you. Anyone else got anything? Ask me a question.
I don't know. I can make a question. But I think
Or a statement's fine. It doesn't have to be a question.
something I've really been watching, which has been really fascinating to me because it's the first time I've ever seen it this way, is in this space, I suppose, that I'm feeling. I've been really noticing. It's mostly, actually, it kind of reminded me from what Sylvia was saying. If I try to create some sort of thought or even plan something for the future, even if it's just an hour ahead of time, it creates like this both pressure in my head and like anxious feeling in my stomach or my chest. And then it's the same as when I go into town or to the beach and past people and close to people, I just get this same trigger for an anxious feeling in my stomach or chest. And I suppose I used to feel that a lot of the time, but from a lot of different things, but I would attach to it so quickly that I felt like it was me, or it was just so much huger than it just like encompassed my whole body, and I just became that. And through noticing just the last couple of days, just feeling it in my body and not even seeing it as bad anymore or scary. It feels so small, like it's really just an energy moving, and then it kind of like moves away when it's ready, or I've like moved away from whatever triggered it or stepped into.
Or the person that you were next to, perhaps, at times.
It does seem to be that way, and I suppose that is what my question is. Is that always going to be the case? Like, do you still feel?
There's a few things in there. Let me start at the start. The first thing is, it's okay. The first thing is, that was always happening whenever you were going into the future. You're just a lot more sensitive and a lot more space now, so you're noticing it first.
Yeah.
Where it was always happening. You had a very worried look on your face a lot of the time when I met you.
That's what I mean. It just like, but I felt like it felt so huge, and it just became like my experience.
Yeah. So first off, you're just noticing more now, which is what happens as you go back more and more. Everything, wow, and that's just been happening your whole bloody life. Okay? And the other thing is, that's how it works generally. Once we start creating too many futures, it's just whether you're sensitive enough to notice it. And then when you get sensitive enough to notice, you go, hang on a minute. I need to take a step back here for a little bit and work out how to do this without that happening. Right? Which means you drop your expectations of any event going the way you project they're going to. Don't assume you're going to get there, and it's okay. Get there. Yeah?
Yeah.
Drop the expectations. And also then just feel what you're feeling in your body. Just like you're doing, be there in it, and you'll see it go away because you're putting your attention on it now. Even if it's from somebody else, but it's your experience, it's yours.
Yeah.
You can't go,
you
mongrel,
like
what are you doing this to me? No, it's your experience now.
It's like triggers what's going on.
That's right. Yeah. And just be with it. And it's a gift actually, because when you come in, maybe a bit early for you now, but at some point when you come in front into intense places and everything, it's always energy everywhere, you're feeling, that's just hitting stuff from you. So that's a gift really. Oh, there's something there, there's something there, there's something there, there's something there. Okay, I want to be with all that now. Thank you. Right? A warm welcoming. Yeah, but manage it. Early days, just manage it. Just the most important thing is just to stay equanimous and just stay with everything. Limit crowded places. Limit intense places. Just allow yourself to be calm and still. Just allow this thing to deepen, because it will naturally deepen if you can stay there, or just naturally deepen on its own. It'll empty the backpack for you. Just stay with it. but also working with me and exposing things, we can stick a shovel in there too, as you've been experiencing. It doesn't even have to happen in Satsang. It happen in the middle of the night, anytime, right? I think we covered that. That was, so I think we covered all the bases there. Did we?
Yes. Actually, the question is that, do you think, is there a place where that all just clears?
Stay in the I am, or the beingness, stay there, don't move. That's what I'm basically rinse and repeat what I just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was very actively hunting stuff. Myself, I just wanted to just be done with it. I'd had enough. So I was very active in looking for, I'd visualize rejection of everybody. Everybody's laughing at me, you're a lunatic. Whole world. Everybody I knew what I cared about. I went everywhere. I looked under every rock. Still do. If there's even a potential of something, I'll go hunting. That's my attitude, works. Because I know it's all BS. I know it's fraudulent. And I want to expose all the fraudulence within me. But that's a muscle that gets exercised at the start. Oh my God, I don't say anything. First few days in Satsang, all I was saying was, I know I've got some stuff, but I don't know what to say. Well, the teacher was right. You just got here, you don't know anyone. Chill out, relax, settle in a bit. You'll come. It's all new. Who's doing what we're doing here, exposing themselves and just going inwards and having a look what's in there? It takes courage. As I always say, when the samurais put down their swords and finished hurting everybody, this is where they went. This is where the true courage is. This is what the warriors that ran around fighting battles did. When they finished with all that, this is what they did. The greatest samurai that ever lived, he ended up waking up and being a teacher for his last 2 decades. Killed 60-something men with his swords. He was challenged from all over Japan. People just come up with their swords, let's go. And then one of them would walk away, one wouldn't every time. And he always walked away. Became a great master, Book of 5 Things. You guys got any questions? Or think back to my first Satsang. In my school, the school I was in was far more intense than this. It was just like, wow, these people, I just can't believe what they were saying. They were just pouring out the deepest things I've ever heard in my life. And I'm going, oh my God, I was terrified. So I turned up as a fairly ATOC male. And these guys were just saying the deepest things I've ever heard anyone ever say in a room full of people. And I was just going, God, what have I done? But it was strangely addictive too, I thought, wow, imagine being at that level where you just are caring. That was impressive to me. But these fears, like I keep saying to everybody, these fears that are holding us back, they look like they're 1,000 miles deep, so deep that we just look at them and look away and run off to the fridge or to the YouTube or to the social media and all the rest of it. But if we actually can just turn and look at them, or just feel these things and just be with them and go, okay, I feel this way now, and just stay there, just feel it. You'll see that they're just made out of balloon rubber. They're black balloons. There's hot air in them. Really, but we don't even spend the time. We've got an addiction to comfortableness in our society. So anything uncomfortable, we're out of there. And this is just overcoming that addiction and just allowing the uncomfortableness within us to be there, and we stay with it and we support each other in that. And in that, these fraudulent things just dissolve. We starve them to death by not running or entertaining them, because they'll come up and spin our mind, and then we support them and make them stronger. This is about weakening the troubles within, dissolving. And I have some abilities that really accelerate. That aren't my abilities, it's just what is. There's no my, really. It's nice when you're not there anymore. Life's so good. So much fun. Well, I don't have a separate identity. It's just struggling in the world to be somebody else, to be something. So like Rose, I think you did drama. You step into a character, don't you? Did you enjoy that?
I did.
Why?
I guess it was fun to like turn yourself into something just because you can.
I would suggest you forgot about yourself for a while.
Yeah, true.
And that's what it's like for me. Everything's groovy then. Well, so, you know, like service is a really powerful thing in the East, in India and different places. They're heavily into service. Like they don't do all this analytical stuff we do, but we've become so heady from our education system, being so intense. We have to unpeel that. Whereas over there, it's not so intense, or it is now, but they're more of a devotion. They just devote to their guru or to their god. And a lot of their gods are actually very expanded. So they're actually putting devotion into expansion through the deity, through the object, that it is an expanded object, or the energetic behind it is expanded, so it works very well for them. So in service too, we disappear when we're really thinking about the next person in a relationship. And both relationships doing that, male relationships kick ass. It's going to kill it. You will be old together. And you disappear in that because what am I doing for them now? What can I do for them right now? It's all over there. It's not here anymore. Me. Well, he didn't do this. She didn't do that. It becomes a service to the other. And when each other's serving each other, beauty, that's where it is. That starts to appear. Because you disappear as a separate identity, clinging and grasping, trying to grab and hoard everything. And all that hoarding is just filling your backpack up. So when you go acting, or you're actually really, truly trying to help somebody out, you might be even hunting Christmas presents, and you're trying to find the perfect present for that person. It feels great, doesn't it? That's it. You've gone. That's what I'm talking about. The identity is gone. The separate, clingy, worrying thing is gone. It's all about this other person. This is what we're doing here. We're trying to dismantle that thing that's holding us down, trapping us. It's really like a cage to me. It's so sad. That's why I do this. I see the cages and I just don't like them. I want everyone to be free. Because everyone's a bliss ball to me, wrapped up. I just want to see bliss balls everywhere. Why not? What's wrong with that? Because there's no me here anymore. What am I going to do for myself? I've got nothing to do. Really? You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that makes sense other than doing this. Yeah. You can kind of understand a bit of that, or a few people here can understand that. But you can wake up in beingness too and still be extremely selfish, but it just won't last. So at some point it's going to go. It's just unfortunate. That's how it is. Well, it's just how it is. That's the formula. That's the code. It's like the code, There's the codes. You've got to work the codes out. Work codes out, you end up back where you started. Because the mind can override this and bring you back, and it will. The programming is not sorted out. So there's a lot of teachings that are very surface, the Advaita, there's nothing, there's nobody, and they just do that repeatedly in 100 different ways. And people find it, but it's just a heady thing. The mind just parts for a while. Like I said, the energy body's got so much history. I think 350 million years there's been biology on the planet. And we've got a little bit of that all through us. Nothing to do with us. Yeah, but it's there in this physical being and it needs to be resolved. For a true expansion and awakening. I'm going to stop talking now unless anyone's got something. No? Do you want to just do one question? Go. Don't think, just do it.
Well,
You got to speak up though, so these guys can hear you. They can't see you, so relax.
So it's a bit hectic, but just
well, you might have a different idea of hectic. No, you
I
better
guess
go.
not. But, before when you said that the fear of death is
I don't recommend starting there if that's what you want to do. Like you work your way to that.
true, but it just really interested me because I've always been really scared of death more than like anyone I talk to about it, even from a really, really young age. And I've never thought about it as a thing that isn't a real thing. I've always just assumed that.
That's how it is for everybody.
It's just how it is. It's just I'm always going to feel that way because it's like being scared of death is real, and it makes sense. But hearing you say that you don't, I guess.
Yeah, so that's really good. So that's a belief that you've got there, okay? And what happens is and it's so perfect what you're saying, because this is what happens. And see if you can get this. Beliefs believed without doubt become your reality. So how you said you'd never thought of it any other way, that's just how it is. So that was now a tint of reality. That was your reality. And you've heard today that there's somebody that's not afraid of death, being myself. And now that reality's been checked, hasn't it? Oh, hang on. That belief is now like, hang on a minute. Now it's not a reality anymore. It's possibly just a belief. That's how this works. So now that can be undone. And that's what's happening. We've got all these hidden beliefs in us that we just think that's how it is. We just assume that's how it is. And that's a great example. And it's great that you found that one earlier because that's what life's like for people that are suffering. It's the beliefs that are causing all the suffering. No beliefs, no problem. I'm belief free. So I went through everything and you discover everything's a belief that you've been programmed with and you've believed. And this one might be genealogy. This might be the biology that came through. You may, in a past life, perhaps you had a horrible death, a slow, painful death or something, and you came in with just this fear of that. It might be nothing to do with anything that's happened in this life. See? So that's why it's just so locked in for you. But that doesn't mean we can't take it apart. But I wouldn't start there.
That's what I meant to say.
Steady on, tiger, we start with some, but it's good that you saw that though. How cool is that? That is cool. That is cool.
I just have one.
Yeah. We have time. We're in no rush here. If anyone wants to leave, they can. We're all fine. We usually hang around and chat afterwards.
I felt suddenly scared before hearing so much things that really actually do make sense. And I feel like everyone would be happier if they knew the stuff that you were saying.
I know.
But I feel like it must, I already feel scared to live in this society where in order to succeed and fit in and even kind of be happy, have a house somewhere to live, you always have to think about the future and you have to be just like everyone else. It's hard to...
the first bit, house is good, but to be like everybody else.
No, not that, but you must have to drop some of the things that you are reality deep down in order just to
I see what you're saying. You have to sell out to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, well, in the Toltec tradition, which is a tradition from Mesoamerica that I'm a really big fan of, it's transformed so much before I even met my teacher, and not well known in the West, but God, it's a good system. And it's very in the world because they had to hide from the Catholics who were trying to cut their heads off if they didn't become Catholics. They had to do it all underground. So they became masters of transformation, is what they call it, the master of transformation in the world. They were doing it under the threat of death. So they'd actually be doing all their practices, which is what I explained the first thing, the peripheral practice. They can be doing that while pretending they're a Catholic priest and not a Catholic priest. You see? So they're actors.
Yeah.
And they call it controlled folly. So they're being folly, which is just the blah blah world, the chicken shit world. Oh, nice weather today. Yes, isn't it wonderful? Oh my God. Oh, what a beautiful, thank God. They're in control of their acting, their folly. So you can play in the world and do whatever you need to do, but you just be the actor that you've been trained to do anyway. You understand? So when I meet different people, I go to work and I put on my work act and make everybody happy around me with my work act. I come home and I don't have much of an act here, but I'll play around a little bit, but it's all controlled folly. It's fun. I'm playing now. I'm an actor.
I'm an actor in this game called life, but I'm not. So it's just fun. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because actually that's really interesting because lately I started to realize that myself and pretty much everyone, you change a little bit.
I know.
Just depend, like when I'm with my nan, I feel like sometimes I'm like I'm different. Or just like,
Yeah,
then I started to feel really bad about it, like am I even being...
Yeah, I was umming and ahhing on how to present the identity being a flux thing to you, but that's another one I can present to you is what you're already seeing, which is good. Every time you go and meet somebody different, you're a slightly different person. So tell me which one's real.
Like maybe when I'm by myself, doing nothing.
When your mind's not working, or when your mind's working. But I mean, so you're with yourself doing nothing, that's as close as you get to you, is it? Okay. But what you are noticing is that we change characters for everybody.
Or maybe, is it just
when you're
that
deep sleeping?
we are a bigger thing and we just choose the parts that will make the other person, right?
Well, we're trying to interact, and if you're an agreeable person, a super agreeable person, you're going to say everything that keeps everything in agreeability. If you're a rebellious person, you're the other end of the scale and you just want to rebel against the world for whatever, you're just going to disagree with everything and everything in between. And you might change from the agreeable to the disagreeable depending on the person and what the power structure is and what you can get away with and what you can't. So if you're super high in agreeableness, you've got a problem because you're selling out all the time. You're probably not doing what you want to do. You're probably fitting into everyone else's world and you're probably hating it. It sucks. Because you want to fit in and you're high in agreeableness. And this is the left wing sort of viewpoint of the world. And then if you're far right wing, you want everything your way. And everyone's just got to fit into that. You know? And both of them are sufferings, eh? But it depends if you're acting though. I go to work and I'm just super agreeable with everyone, but it's a choice because I just want, otherwise they just start talking about politics and crap and I just want to make, I'll just steer the conversation into fun stuff. I don't want to know what Hillary Clinton's doing. I really don't. Or Donald Trump. I'm not interested, so I just try to get them talking about their gardens or whatever they're into. I just get them talking about what gets them in their heart. They start talking about their heart, their kids or their horses or their, whatever gets them in the heart. I just start talking about that. And then they're in their heart and we're hanging out. I don't talk about myself a little bit, as long as it's sharing information. But what are they into? You know what I mean? It's controlled folly. It's just trying to get a nice environment to work in instead of really talking about politics and whingy things all the time. And how they're a victim of this, that, the other. Because I want to have a nice time. I want them to have a nice time. Does that make sense? It's a bit off topic, but yeah, you've already started to see that your personality shifts, but a lot of people don't see that. And you're going, oh, that's a bit weird. See, that's a seeing. That's an investigator. That's somebody looking inward. That's inward looking. Noticing that. Does that make sense? Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. They just believe their character completely. So there's a little part of you that isn't believing a part of your character now. Yes. That's the thin end of the wedge. You see? What I'm saying to you, even when you're alone, sitting alone, what you think you are might not be it either. That's what I'm saying. Just look at that next layer. Yeah. And what you are is just, oh, goodness, is it not? And that's just the start of it. It's just the beginning. And it's just, everyone's falling like flies around here. It's good, one at a time. James had a look, had a glimpse. Tried to walk on water. He was Jesus. Wanted to go and put something in his pocket or something. So you start to feel pretty big. Thought that'd be great for barbecue later on. Throw that on the plate. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. We sort of have anyway. It's gone a bit informal. Time out, man. Time out from yourselves, eh? Have the day off. Have a holiday from yourself. It's great.